Okay, so for the next 9 or 10 minutes, we're going to talk about creating and designing your own agent within Business Central. This is now available in preview, only in sandbox environments, but soon you'll be able to go in and likely with the help of us or consultants, to set up these agents and provide them in a production environment. Now, what I'll talk first about is Copilot Studio. For well over a year now, we've been able to create autonomous AI agents that have access to Business Central through MCP, or Model Context Protocol for Business Central. That's available now. And this is really when you're using an agent that is going to do workflows maybe across multiple different applications. And it's much more granular in terms of being able to select which large language model you want to use. For example, if you have a preferred one, the knowledge source that you're using, including SharePoint, for example. Specific tools, in this case, we're creating a SharePoint list, and even agents to work with your agent as well. But let's talk specifically about creating your own agent within Business Central. You can see here, this is in preview, and you just go ahead and create, and the goal is like a proof of concept to really get an idea of what you want your agent to do. Now, they've actually Microsoft has provided a template, an example of that, and it's the sales validation agent. And so I've turned this on, and I'll explain a little bit about this. But what's important is to show you that there's more configuration and I'll say testing against these agents versus the sales order agent, payables agent that I just showed. Okay, let's show you this here. Again, you restrict your agent with a specific UI profile and permissions that it has access to. And then here's the key difference now. So similar to the Copilot Studio where you provide instructions, you provide instructions to your agent within Business Central. This is the example that Microsoft has provided, and it's rather specific. What this agent is doing is it's validating when the user picks a date for release. It validates that the sales orders have items that are in stock and reserved. If they are, it will release it to be shipped in the warehouse. And so very specific on this. Again, a timeline here to show you what it's doing. And it goes step by step. So if you look at this, and if I was to click on the review of this, it'll actually show you that it did in fact release this specific sales order. I only had one in my demo instance that had both reserved and in stock available for release. So that's a very good example of the instructions against that. Let's take a look at another one. So I've created a project assistant in the system. If I click on this, same idea. It's going to go through a very specific set of steps that it went through. I'll show you the first step, if you will. I set up this agent to create a project for existing customers based on previous projects that we did for this customer. Now, the input from the user is the name of the customer, what the project is, and what the start date should be, and who the project manager should be as well. So you can see here, project for the School of Fine Arts to remodel their number 3 boardroom. Start date should be September 1st. Choose a project manager that makes sense. If we go to the next step, the system actually took those inputs, and here's a couple of them here. Again, those suggestions that the agent made is showing the description and the customer name, which we got that right. And if I go to the next step here, the system actually went and created project phases and tasks based on previous projects that we had done for this customer, and has laid these out nicely and explained why. What's interesting is this AVIT installation task in this phase is something that the agent kind of figured out on its own, because I took a look at the previous projects and they were not a part of that. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then finally, what it's done here is it's given me a summary as a user, the project number, the start date, and in the system, I'm a project manager with that work breakdown structure as well. So that's one example for an operational agent, if you will. And I have one more example that's also an operational one, and I'll explain this here. So this is actually a consumed materials distributor. Now let's kind of go through what this agent has done for us. So if I click on the initial input, I asked it to allocate the total components that we received from the shop floor when a sales order was completed with multiple lines and different finished good items. I'll show you the attachment. So essentially, the shop floor, when done manufacturing these different quantities of different products, finished goods, it gave us a total. And they're all using the same items and resources. But I gave the instructions to allocate based on the finished goods. And if we take a quick look at the sales order, which is this one here, 1092, you can see there's two lines here in the sales order for different quantities. And these are engineered to order. There is no raw material setup. There's no bill of materials set up on this. My agent is going to create them and allow me to validate against that. So let's just show you what it's going to do here. So the next step is it took those total materials and divvy them up to two different assembly orders that will go against those sales order lines in that sales order. And it's done a very good job here. That's the first one. If I go to the next step, this is the additional bill of materials against the other finished good. And in the end, I asked it to set up a summary showing the bill of materials against each of those different finished goods. Okay, so that was an example of operational agents that you create and design, you have control of. And I hope you can see that you can enable significant automating of specific tasks or full business process workflows to allow you to scale operationally significantly. And then that should have an ability to increase workloads for your existing team without having to hire additional FTEs during peak periods again.